Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Titusville City Council meeting of October 24th, 2017 at 6:30. We have a quorum. I'll call this meeting to order. Reverend A.J. Davis is with us from the St. James AME Church to say the invocation. I know I saw him come in.
Right in front of you.
Oh, there he is. There he is. You're behind the counter. If you will, sir, step up.
Short, so you know. Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Let us bow our heads, please. O God, our help in ages past, our hope for years to come, our shelter from the stormy blast, and our eternal home. We thank you, God, for allowing us another chance to be in the land of the living. Thank you for watching over us all night last night, and then early this morning you touched us and allowed our days to roll on a little while longer. We don't take anything for granted, God, because we know that somebody somewhere in this world did not get up this morning. We thank you for your grace and your mercy. We thank you for your love and your kindness. We thank you for your compassion. But most of all, God, we thank you for the city of Titusville. We thank you most of all that through Hurricane Irma, you spared us, Lord. No lives were lost, even though we had damage to property, which can be replaced. But lives were spared, and we thank you for it. And we know it could have been worse than it was. So we thank you for surrounding us with your love and care. Now tonight, God, as we enter into this commissioner meeting, we thank you for the leadership that you have provided for us and the personality of Mayor Walt Johnson and Vice Mayor Matt Barringen and City Manager Scott Larice and Commissioners Sarah Stokel and Richard Broom and Jolene Nelson and Dan Diesel. Thank you for the vision that they have for our city. And thank you, God, for their direction and their guidance. And thank you, God, that what's going to take place here tonight, all the preparations have been put in place. And we just pray that we have like minds tonight, that we'll be on one accord, for we know that where there's unity, there is strength. Thank you for what you're going to do in this place today and our city, God, as we look forward to growth and we look forward to people coming together on one accord. We thank you for what they've already done and what is to come, because we believe that the best is yet to come. It's in your name that we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome, sir.
You'll join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, would you read the procedures for public comment?
Yes, sir. Individuals wishing to speak on public and non-public hearing agenda items must complete a sign-up card and present it to the clerk prior to the item being introduced. Those wishing to speak on quasi-judicial public hearings must complete a sign-up card and sign the oath. Individuals wishing to speak on non-agenda items may do so under petitions and requests from the public present. This opportunity is offered twice in the meeting, and individuals may speak at either the first or second petitions, but not both. No sign-up card is required. Sign-up and oath cards are located on the table in the back of the council chamber. Citizens shall not comment on any issue more than once during the meeting. All comments except petitions and requests must address the pending issue, and citizens will be given 3 minutes to speak on all items.
Thank you, Clerk. Next item is approval of the minutes for a special city council meeting on August 16th, 2017.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Not hearing any. All those in favor say yes.
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 Any opposed, like sign? None. Passes unanimously. Number 5 is special recognitions and presentations. We have none at this time. We completed them all in the last meeting. Next item is boards and commissions. Mr. City Manager.
Municipal Code Enforcement Board. The terms of regular member Patricia Bell, Dr. Gina Beckles, Mike Cunningham, and alternate Susan Oslin expire on 31 October 2017. Regular members Bell and Beckles have expressed their willingness and desire to continue to serve on this board and have requested a reappointment for 3-year term to expire on 31 October 2020. Regular member Mike Cunningham advised that he does not wish to be considered for reappointment at this time. Alternate member Susan Oslin has requested appointment as a regular member for a 3-year period to expire on 31 October 2020. She is not appointed. If she is not appointed as a regular member, she would like to continue to serve as an alternate member for a 3-year term expiring on 31 October 2020.
I would like to comment that Mr. Cunningham has been on that board since I can remember, which is about 20 years, I would say. And I think we should do something a little special to recognize his commitment and his service for that many years. So, City Manager, would you prepare something, and do I need a vote on that so that the council approves?
Sure, we can prepare a letter under your signature. I'm sure the
Okay.
council will
Council, will you
acknowledge.
make a motion to that effect?
I would make a motion to that effect. I think he's actually been there for like 30 years.
I don't know
It's
the
something-
exact amount, but I know he's been there as long as I can remember.
Yeah.
Well, and I got here 40-something years ago, so maybe it is that long. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, like sign. Passes unanimously. We need to reappoint member Patricia Bell, regular member Dr. Gina Beckles, and appoint regular member Sandra Ozan, if I pronounced that correctly, as a regular member. Do I have a motion?
So, motion to approve member Bell, Beckles, and Ozan with the acceptance of the resignation of Mr. Cunningham.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Not hearing any. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, like sign. Passes unanimously. Next item is the Historic Preservation Board.
The terms of regular members Joseph Adams, Roz Foster, and William Geckens, Alan Kissel, and alternate member Lindsay Bamberg expire on 31 October 2017. Regular members Roz Foster, William Geckens, Alan Kissel, and alternate member Lindsay Bamberg have expressed their willingness and desire to continue to serve on this board as regular members for a 2-year term expiring 31 October 2019. Staff has now been able to confirm Mr. Adams' desire to continue to serve on this board.
Okay, so we're reappointing Ms. Foster, Mr. Jenkins, Mr. Kiesel, Mr. Adams, and Ms. Bamberg. Do I have a motion?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say yes.
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 Anybody opposed, like sign. Passes unanimously. Next is the P&Z Commission.
Currently, there's one vacancy for an alternate member to expire on 31 January 2019. There's currently one applicant on file for consideration, Ms. Susan Copeland, and she's expressed her willingness and desire to serve on this commission as an alternate member.
Okay, I need a motion to that effect.
I'll move to approve Suzanne Noel Copeland for that position.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Second. Any discussion? Not. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, like sign. Passes unanimously. Next item is petitions and requests from the public present. Anybody would like to speak to anything at this point? You do not need a card for here if you just have something you want to petition us about. I didn't mean to talk you into it, Danny.
Hi, Danny Treader, 2110 South Washington Avenue, Titusville. Thanks again for last meeting and giving us the opportunity to discuss the river ordinance. I came tonight. My conditional use permit at 3105 South Washington Avenue is set to expire April 8th. I wanted to get a jump on it. So I wanted to let you know that we are in talks with someone on the still with the assisted living, and so hopefully in the next week or two I will, be getting a contract. They did meet with the architect last week So that's moving along. And so I just wanted to, I don't see Miss, oh, Peggy's here. So I just wanted to, come to you and just, before we started all the work on that, coming up to ask you that we could consider a 2-year extension. It ends on April 8th of 2018.
I think we would have to put that on the agenda. Is that correct? I mean, we can't do it right now.
No, I know.
But we certainly appreciate your coming and letting us know what activity is going on.
Okay.
You've had that for a while, and I know that you've had your ups and downs on that.
Yes.
So I'm personally very happy to hear things are working out for you.
Well, thank you.
Sure.
Guys, have a
Thank
good
you. Anyone else like to speak? Not seeing anybody, I'll go on to the next item. Acceptance of award for FYI victim of crime.
Sir, these are consent agenda items?
I'm sorry, yes, these are consent agenda. Okay. Clerk, are there any cards on these items?
No, sir.
Has council asked anything to be removed?
I do.
Okay.
8G. I'd like to have 8G removed.
Wait, sir. All right, 8G,
As in goat.
got it.
I was going to ask the same, so.
So it's just 8G at this point?
Also 8C.
8C. Any others? Okay. We will pull the items from the consent agenda then, 8G and 8C. They will be heard separately immediately following the agenda, the consent agenda. I accept the motion to approve items A through, I don't know what the last one is, A through K, taking out item 8G and 8C.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second. There we go.
I have a motion and a second. I have a light for you, Mr. Member Diesel. Is this an old?
Old.
Okay. Thank you. All right, any further discussion on the consent agenda? If not, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, like sign. Passes unanimously.
Consent agenda item 8A for the record, accept the award in the amount of $49,182.51 to fund the FY victim family advocate position and approve the budget amendment upon the receipt of funds. Consent agenda item 8B, approve the final ranking of consultants for Hopkins Avenue inspection services and authorize the staff to conduct contract negotiations with the top 3 ranked firms. DRMP of Orlando, Florida was the number 1 ranked firm. If the city is unable to negotiate satisfactory contract with DRMP, terminate negotiations with said firm and undertake negotiations with second-ranked firm. Consent agenda item 8D, approve advisability to delete the Code of Ordinances Chapter 18 swimming pools because the code is outdated and duplicative. Consent agenda item 8B, approve advisability to amend land development regulations and future land use element to permit greater residential density in DMU downtown sub-district. Consent agenda item 8F. Appropriate and approve the use of $10,000 in forfeiture funds for repair and maintenance of forfeiture vehicles. Appropriate and approve the use of $4,000 in forfeiture funds to purchase crime prevention materials and promote various services, police department supports, and approve the attached budget amendment. Consent agenda item 8H. Approve the attached budget amendment and the award of contract to Underwater Engineering Services of Fort Pierce, Florida, in the amount of $100,664 for replacement damages, piles, and deck repairs associated with Hurricane Matthew, and authorize the city manager to execute the contract. Consent agenda item 8I. Approve award of contract bid number 18B003 to SDV Services, LLC, of Titusville, Florida, for Riverside Drive Force Main Stabilization Project in the amount of $113,566, and authorize the city manager to execute the contract and approve the associated budget amendment. Consent agenda item 8J, approve the award of T. Wayne Hill Trucking, Incorporated, to haul and dispose of liquid bios with an elevated copper content in the amount of $80,000, and authorize the city manager to issue the necessary purchase orders for the service. Consent agenda item 8K, approve the selection committee final ranking of engineering consultants for continuing contract RFQ 17Q30, code 101, Water Resources Services, and authorize staff to conduct contract negotiations to establish 4 continuing consultant contracts with the top 4 selected firms.
Clerk, will you refresh my memory, and apparently my neighbors also? Did we make a motion on this yet?
Yes, sir, you did.
Okay, good. All right, we have a motion and a second. We'll take a vote on items A through K, with the exception of 8G and 8C. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, like sign. Passes unanimously. Now we have those 2 items.
Consent agenda item 8C, Medicare, medical, and pharmacy options for city retirees. For the plan year 2018, the city will continue to offer Cigna Medicare Supplemental Medicare Part D prescription drug plan and an Aetna Medicare Advantage plan to retirees who are eligible for Medicare. The Aetna Medicare Advantage plan has 54 enrollee retirees at a rate of $304.64 per member per month. The 2018 rate without the HIF is $322.64 per member per month. The FY18 rate is $363.29. The total maximum impact based on the current enrollment of members at $363.29 is $38,005. However, if the HIF is not reinstated $322.64 rate, then the fiscal impact will be an additional $11,664. In addition, the city will continue to offer Cigna Medicare Surround Medical Supplement Plan N and Part D pharmacy plan coverage to eligible city retirees as a city-sponsored plan for 2018, and an average monthly premium of $423.62 per member per month. The rates are determined based on the issue age of the policy to each individual Medicare-eligible beneficiary. City funding for this plan will remain the same at current levels. The projected number of people in this plan is 110. The plan design meets Florida statute requirements as providing the same coverage as offered to the active group at cost savings to the city. And we have Mr. De Niro here to answer any questions council may have.
Okay. Who pulled this item?
That is Matt.
Okay.
I did have a couple questions, if that's all right. And thank you. So I think there's may be some easy questions, but anything to do with our retirees and medical health care, I want to make sure that I'm walking out with a clear understanding. So because this has to do with the pharmacy plans for the options for the retirees, by moving forward with this, all the retirees can keep whatever prescription locations they've been using. We're not asking them to change anything.
Right. Yep. Mayor, council members, Joe De Niro, Human Resources Director. Jan Bush with Robinson Bush, our consultant, has worked very closely at the Medicare renewal, so she can specifically address a lot of those questions. But to answer your question about very little, if no, disruption to our retirees.
Okay.
I think you can.
Exactly. So you're renewing the same plans with the change in the rates just for the Aetna Medicare Advantage prescription drug plan.
And then increased cost or any additional costs to our retirees?
The plan design is going to be the same. Now,
Right.
certain things may move on the formulary.
Okay.
They do all the time when Medicare Part D establishes those formularies, but hopefully that disruption would be very minimal, if any.
So a fair expectation is I can go to the same place, I can get the same pills, and it's going to cost about the same amount.
That would be a fair. That would be a fair statement.
Okay.
Can't guarantee it will always be the same, but it would, in most cases, always be the same plan that they
All right.
have today.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions by council on item 8G? I see none. I'll accept a motion on this. 8C, sorry.
I move to approve the 2018 Cigna Medicare Supplement and Medicare Part D prescription drug plan.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Sarah?
I have a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, like sign. Item 8C passes. 8G, who was it?
Consent agenda item 8G, Youth Engagement Program Funding. On 10 October 2017, City Council approved advisability regarding youth engagement programs and allocated $30,000 to the CDBG grant program as matching funds and outlined additional funding criteria. Staff has compiled an additional list of criteria based on Council's discussion and is seeking approval of this criteria to move forward with inclusion of additional funds into this year's CDBG request for proposal process for FY 18 and 19 programs. These funds will be earmarked for various youth programs meeting the approved criteria as shown in your packet.
Okay, I just have a comment. Well, let me, who pulled it? So let me, sir, if you will. Okay. This is kind of a new way of dealing with these things. I had some questions about the regulations and who could get accepted on it. There is organizations in the town that I think they serve the purpose of this, but they aren't quite the same because they're more athletic based, and it doesn't really cover that. But I just want council to know that I'll be looking into that and see, because the net effect is what we want to see, and that's improvement of the children in the community, especially in the lower socioeconomic areas. And I can tell you, I have watched this operation, I guess you'd call it. It's quite a thing, and the young people that are coming out of there are more prepared for the world and what it takes to get a job, and the fact that they have to work for it because of what they went through in this area. So I just wanted to put that out, that I will be looking at that again.
Yes, sir, Mayor. I feel like we're on the same page. I think we were at the last meeting in this. I think it's obviously outstanding. The following criteria establishes the funding considerations. I don't have a problem with that. Would be the wrong way of putting that. But if you limit it to those with before and after school tutoring programs and coordinating aspects of either science, technology, engineering, math, etc., while as a 35-year educator, I think that's awesome. And if there are those who are able to do that, that's great too. But I don't want to, and I said I use the term, I want to have inclusion, not exclusion. And I had some specific programs in mind. One I think the mayor references in the Fighting Edge. And what they do with their the mentoring and the counseling programs, addressing productive, caring, and responsible citizenship may be second to none. There's also a program that I have visited, and they've talked to me, North Brevard Wrestling Association. This is all about making kids better citizens and mentoring and counseling. I'm no way opposed to after-school tutoring. And if that can be incorporated in all the programs, that's great. But I don't want it to become an exclusionary bullet for those who are doing such a great program. So I would balk at that, keeping some of these programs from being eligible for the consideration.
Thank you. Well said, and I agree with you. That is who I was talking about. So, and remember, these are CDBG rules, not
our rules.
Titusville's rules. So, but I feel it's worth the effort to try and see if that can be stretched a little bit, because the effect is what they want to see, what we all want to see. Member Stokel?
Yep, thank you. And that actually leads into my questions. With these three areas of mentoring, tutoring, and drug and crime prevention, are these, when you guys are going to be rating these, are these all going to be weighted the same way? As far when an applicant submits a request and maybe they include tutoring but they don't have the drug and crime prevention, like, are they all weighted the same way when you are grading them?
That is correct.
Okay, so they all hold the same equal weight. Okay, and then with the tutoring, I see here it says minimum 1 hour, is that a day or a week? Is it specified?
That was put in because of the last city council meeting.
Okay.
I believe it was the mayor. I'm not sure which council member it was, but it was noted that
Could
it
you
just
pull your
not be-
microphone a little closer, please? It's very difficult to hear.
It was noted at the last council meeting that it not just be held for an hour before or an hour after.
Okay.
That it be more flexible.
Right. Okay. And then I guess my third question would be, do we as council members have the flexibility of editing this?
Absolutely.
Okay. So then I guess that brings it back to you guys. If what I'm hearing is there's some other programs and we don't want to be excluding some that may be of great benefit to our community. And from what I'm hearing here is we're looking at these 3 areas and they're weighted the same. Could that potentially happen? And do we want to edit some of them at the same time making sure that we're being above reproach and not having our own bias in there as well? I would tend to agree that tutoring kind of, I like it, but I also think that there can be other benefits of that counseling and that relationship building, which could have the same effects. And then the drug and crime prevention, I don't know how that actually plays out as to, do you actually have like information sessions based on that, or are you providing a space where these children are not in that environment right now? So in that way, you actually are kind of speaking to that. So those were just some of my thoughts I had.
Very good, thank you. Member Nelson, you're next.
Thank you. This was my thought when we originally discussed this. And I thought about the sports programs, and I thought about the academic programs. You know, we have a lot of kids that are involved in sports, and sports are great. It keeps them off the street. It keeps them active. But how many people can take that sports knowledge and ability? How many people from this city have gone on to make money with that? I mean, you know, I'm sorry, but there's probably a dozen people who have been able to take the knowledge they learned on the football field or wherever and been able to go on if they don't have the academics. Sorry, Dan. I know you do a wonderful job.
Big on academics, don't mistake that.
Oh, I know, but every kid who has a strong academic base is able to get a job, graduate, and go on, whereas kids who don't have a strong academic base that may be good football players, they're not necessarily going to succeed, and the ones that are going to succeed is a small number. So as much as I appreciate sports and I appreciate what the coaches do for the kids, and bottom line is if we're going to get them out of this area, the fact that they can hit a baseball and they're a good baseball player is not necessarily going to give them a means to provide for themselves and their family when they get older.
With all due respect, I think you're missing the point that I'm going to, I promise. It's not the athletic endeavor, it's what the athletic endeavor teaches those kids. And the basic idea of if you want to get ahead, you have to work hard.
Right.
If you want to win in a sport, particularly, well, any kind of sport, it doesn't matter. You have to work hard. And that thought, that young person may not go on to the athletics, but that thought is in there. There is also a segment of it where, in this particular case, he has the kids learn how to present themselves to people. When I go over there and they come up, they all look in the eye and shake your hand, and you know, so that any job they may go after, they'll have that experience and understand. You know what it takes, hard work, and present yourself well at the meeting, and I think that increases their chances for a job as well. Not necessarily that they're going to go into the athletics. That's not really what we're looking at. So.
And I understand that part, but I'm just saying, my point is, if they don't have some type of, sometimes they need the help with the academics to get them
Yeah, I agree with what
Yeah.
you're saying. What I'm saying is, if they understand that they have to work, then they may go to college where they wouldn't have gone to college, or go to a trade school where they wouldn't have gone to a trade school, because they said, well, I did good here because the coach taught me how to work hard and come out and apply myself and so forth. I think I'll carry my education further, and it would not surprise me at all that the majority of those students will do something of that ilk. As you pointed out, very few of them
they don't.
are going to go on to athletics, but I think it prepares them for the rest of the things that are out there, including education.
And as long as it prepares them for the education.
I agree, and that's certainly the lesson that they're being taught. Work hard, and if it's in the athletics or if it's in the education, you've got to do it. You've got to do it yourself. And unfortunately, a lot of kids are not getting that message from their homes.
No.
They're saying, well, just sit back and let somebody pay you or something. I don't know what it is, but so that's where we're at.
Can I have
yes, absolutely.
one more point?
Go right ahead.
I would like to see us put in here that the people who are working with these kids, the staff, are able to pass background checks.
Sure.
To me, that's very important. I appreciate people want to work with the kids, but sometimes they work with the kids for the wrong reasons. And I don't want to see us funding something for somebody who's doing that for the wrong reason.
I think that's a very reasonable and a good request, so we'll look into that. Vice Mayor?
Thank you. I'm in agreement with Member Nelson on the background checks. I think that's a must. And if there needs to be a qualitative measure or a threshold or a bar, I believe Brevard County Parks and Rec requires them. Not sure, but if they do, that threshold I think would be appropriate, so we can mimic that and maybe kill two birds with one stone for somebody who would like to volunteer. The second being under the second item, before and after school tutoring programs. So twofold. One is I'm in agreement that I think that tutoring being available for something is important, especially if we've located a place where the youth can get to. That would be awesome. But I also understand Member Diesel's concern with it would be awesome, but it may not be effective. Maybe we'll lose some people along the way. So I'm going to try to split the difference, I think. And what I'm looking for is a demonstrative outcome. So what I see is qualitative measures of what we're looking for a program to have, but what I see is no outcomes of what we're going to achieve and measure to define success. So these are all things that we might feel good about and we might have an opinion on. I would be very interested to see if, as a program, they can nuts and bolts, how many kids in your program have a 2.0 or whatever it is. Member Diesel, you can probably help me out on that. But if it's all Ds, can we get kids to at least all Ds? And say that if you're part of this program, you have to be passing school or you have to be working on your way to pass school. And I would take a percentage of what percentage gain. So if we're getting a kid that walks in is like, I have not passed a class for the past 2 years, awesome, you're in the right spot. So can we look at a gain or a measurement of success that we can say, this program's helping them out in school? And that would be something I'd be looking for. So some kind of end state or outcome that we can identify and say, yes, that program did an amazing job with it. So that's what I would look for.
Member Diesel?
First, I want to clarify that people going pro in athletics has nothing to do with my thought here. I coached and still coaching high school football for 35 years, and anybody going pro had nothing to do with my thought process. My thought process was teaching a kid to do the right thing, get to class on time, never quit when things get tough. That's what this is all about. That's getting these kids to the site to get those qualities instilled in them. The two programs that I referenced, specifically the North Brevard Wrestling, and certainly unless they're going WWE, there is no pro in wrestling. It's all about getting them out there to become better people. I can tell you with the Fighting Edge, I'm working with Willie on having a parenting dinner in the community. It's something that he came up with, and we're working to do that sort of thing. They were one of the first groups out there after the hurricane. all of these things don't, connotate into, gosh, we got to get you ready to go pro. That's not what that's about at all. It's about getting them to the right people, getting them to some male role models, getting them to some people who will tell them no and mean it, and getting them to people that would say, if you don't have a 2.0, you're not coming to my gym. And people who mean it and people that they will respect. I am not opposed to before and after school programs. I wouldn't mind seeing them be able to incorporate that. What I'm saying is I don't want those programs eliminated because of that wording in this ordinance.
I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. Go right ahead.
So,
Member Nelson.
Member Diesel, you wouldn't have a problem, though, or I'm assuming Willie wouldn't have a problem setting aside half an hour or so to help the kids with their homework, to make sure that's done, to make sure they're getting ahead.
First of all, having coached Willie Taylor, I had study hall during my head football coaching days. So 2 days a week, Tuesday and Thursday, we had study hall. So that's part of the deal. I can also tell you, having visited, as I believe the mayor has, Willie's gym, often there are kids in a back room who are doing homework that wouldn't be doing homework probably if they weren't in his facility.
Right.
So I just want to make that clear that it's not, we're all about boxing or wrestling or football or whatever it is. There's no such, I would hope there's no such thing in our area like that. I can only tell you that I coached Willie. I hope I mentored him well enough to know that you go to study hall twice a week, that's part of the deal. If you can't get it done in school, you're done.
Right.
I say a million times, your name is the name at the top of that diploma, not mine, not your parents, your name. And if you don't walk across that stage, I can't tell you we're going to walk, but it's not going to necessarily be a success. So what I'm trying to allow them to do is facilitate success, discipline, ethics, solid behavior through athletics. We have said as athletic directors in Brevard County for many, many years, the greatest dropout prevention program is athletics.
Well, my question, though, is there are asking that there be some type of tutoring program so that these kids do get their homework done, and that's one of the factors to be considered. Am I right?
Yes.
So it's just a factor to be considered.
If I could, right now, it's written that all of these criteria will have to be met. You could use the language, one of the following criteria would be met.
Or could you do it that these are the criteria that will be considered, the more of these criteria that you meet, the stronger your score. And that would encourage Willie and some of the others to go ahead and incorporate a study hall
It's
kind of program.
council's choice.
I think that if you go with incorporate at least one, I would even say two. I don't know how you don't want to incorporate drug and crime prevention programs. And again, I would love to see the people that I deal with instill that tutoring aspect. They may run into a time issue sometimes. High schools get out later than they used to, so they're not able to get there till 4:30. And I don't know what the situation is as it gets darker earlier or whatever. But I'd hate to say that Willie says, well, I can't do that, and I don't have the people to get that done for me. But I can tell you, at least 2 out of the last 3 times I was there, they've got an office in the back where 3 kids were doing homework. That's a program I want to support.
Right. So we basically leave that in, and it's just part of the criteria, and it's weighted. And they bring it back to us to make a decision.
Well, you're also, and again, I hate to get into some of these things sometimes that we are so specifically worded, technology, engineering, or math, or science. I think if a kid from the kids in many cases that Willie's dealing with that need these programs, if we can get them to take any book in the back and do any work at any time under the supervision of an adult, I think that's a plus. And I don't want to eliminate it because we don't meet the wording.
Okay, so maybe get rid of the incorporating aspects of either science, technology, engineering, and or math. And you'd be happy.
Still think we're too wordy. I don't know why we have to go with all the incorporating anything. If you even go to before and after school study halls or tutoring program. I mean, tutoring is a tricky word too, because if you're going to really have tutoring, You got to have somebody there who, don't ask me to tutor algebra. I can sit there and watch you do your homework and get you some help, but I can't be the guy to tutor you. And I think that word alone could cause us problems if we don't have the right people back there.
How about if we say before and after school tutoring programs, minimum 1 hour a week, or 2 hours a week?
That's better.
And then you have 2 study halls a week.
Even the word engineering.
I left that out.
Let's. I think we're having a debate going on. Let's try and move along a little bit. And I'm wondering what we're allowed to put in at all. So I'm going to have to ask that question. But Member Stokel?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at. I would like to see it incorporate one of the three. And my rationale for that, if somebody's really good at a mentoring or counseling program, I don't want them to feel like they have to just add this on because it's going to hold more weight. I'm okay with just one of the three. Mentoring and counseling program, addressing those are fine. Before and after school tutoring programs, and take out all the other stuff, and then drug and crime prevention program. I think it leaves it open. I think that we can hopefully get a good pool of applicants that are really focused on the community, whatever their specialty is, how they want to build those relationships with the youth, and not limit them and feel like they need to do this because, they might not get accepted and not really be able to showcase the program that they're offering. So that was my suggestion.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, I see your light.
I just wanted to remind council, and we've had this discussion before, and I'll always bring it up, that when you're discussing the appropriate use of your taxpayer dollars, and in this case, $30,000 towards CDBG for youth engagement, the focus, of course, as you know, is trying to meet a public purpose. And the law is a concrete public purpose, not an individual group or individual trying to help because I like them or that person. A lot of the focus shouldn't be how do we achieve, an individual thing? It has to be a public purpose. So when you're looking at these factors and you're providing, I think you ought to keep in mind, what is the overriding public purpose we're trying to achieve here, as opposed to a particular group and what do they need to do to qualify? It's what are we achieving here as a public purpose? And when you're looking at this criteria and people that apply, we're applying this criteria because we've identified, like I said, a need in our community that we're trying to achieve as an overriding public purpose. Along with that, you also have to have a reasonable expectation that the purpose will be accomplished. So when you're looking at what we want to achieve here and how we're going to use that money to achieve that specific purpose and how is that money going to be spent with a reasonable expectation we're achieving that purpose.
And I understand that, and I'm going to bring up the point that these are CDBG rules that we're talking about. So as I said before, I don't think we can change them, but I think we can, as a council, ask CDBG to make a reading on it as to whether this sort of thing, which is a public purpose, it's the same public purpose that Boys and Girls Clubs have or any other organization like that, and that's to see the youth advance and be successful in life. So it's the same public purpose, it's a different way to go at it. But I don't believe, and Mr. City Attorney, if I am wrong, correct me, but I don't think we can change the CDBG rules, but we can ask them for a reading. Is that?
I'm going to have to defer to the CDBG experts at the table, and that would be your staff.
So what the public service would be is activities benefiting low and moderate income persons. In this case, youth engagement.
If I could, there are 3 national objectives of the CDBG program. The first is to benefit low and moderate income persons. The second is to aid in the prevention or elimination of slums or blight. And the third is to meet community development needs having a particular urgency. So it would have to be one of those 3 that you've determined that
Repeat
it met
the first
that.
one again.
To benefit low and moderate income persons. And we also felt that the second one is aid in the prevention or elimination of slums or blight, and the third is to meet community development needs having a particular urgency.
I think it meets the first criteria. So, but we'll still have to make sure that that's correct. And as I said, I don't think it's we need to add anything to it. We need to get a reading that's the objective that we're looking for, and that this does, and I feel it does, has been pointed out by Member Diesel. I think it absolutely meets that first criteria. So with that, I see another light. Madam Vice Mayor.
Sure. So I think what I heard possible consensus on was, and I'm happy to follow along with, I heard yes to the mentoring and counseling. I heard yes to drug and crime prevention. I heard yes to before and after school programs, which could be study hall or tutoring. Is that and stop? So, and that with the measurement of who is awarded, that they must at least meet one of the criteria, but can meet more. Is that a
I also believe that there was a discussion about background checks.
with the inclusion of background checks for any employee that would be engaged in the program?
Is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
I think that covers it. Do I have a second on the motion? I have a motion, a second. Any further discussion?
Do we want to add a employee or volunteer?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Or volunteer to pass the background check?
Do you want to include that in the motion?
Happy to amend that.
Does the second hold? The second suggested it, so I assume the second holds on?
I think Jolene
Oh, was it
seconded,
Jolene?
yeah.
I'm sorry.
Oh, yes.
Yes, the second holds, okay. Any further discussion? Not seeing any, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, like sign, passes unanimously. Thank you. We are through with consent agenda. We're on to ordinances, second reading, public hearing, and related action. Mr. City Manager.
Be the city attorney to read the
Oh,
ordinance.
sorry, City Attorney.
Ordinance number 30, 2017, an ordinance of the City of Titusville, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinances related to caterers and restaurants by amending the limited uses in the light industrial services and warehousing, M1 industrial, M2 industrial services and warehousing, and planned industrial development PID zoning districts by amending Section 28167 restaurants and amending Section 371 definitions to add caterer and takeout restaurant, providing for severability, repeal of conflicting ordinances, an effective date, and incorporation into the code.
The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of this action 4-0 with the request that council consider directing staff to prepare new ordinance making catering and the PID zoning a conditional use. Based on a request from a citizen, council directed staff to develop an ordinance that would permit caterers and takeout restaurants in industrial areas. Currently, restaurants are permitted as accessory uses to breweries, distilleries, and industrial, and restaurants that cater to industrial uses are permitted within the planned industrial district. The purpose of the ordinance, it creates definitions of caterers and takeout restaurants consistent with state licensing definitions. The ordinance also permits caterers to take out restaurants in light industrial services and manufacturing M1 zoning classifications. Summary of the proposed changes are in your packet. And Ms. Busaka is here to answer questions that you may have on this.
And I just have one comment, that is that there's been a change to this ordinance since the first reading, and it is that the definition of caterer is now food or drink is prepared in a licensed kitchen and served at another location. The language in establishment that does not offer dining in or delivery takeout has been stricken.
Okay. Any questions for Ms. Busaka from council? I see none. Clerk, do we have any cards on this?
We have one card. It's Gary Boyer.
Just wanted to say thank you for the ordinance. And
If you would, just for the record, your name
my name's Gary Boyer.
and push the button. There you go. Now you're on.
Now we're on.
You're okay.
Just wanted to say thank you. My name's Gary Boyer, and I wanted to thank Planning and Zoning and Peggy and everybody for the work that's put on this. And I think we've come to a good conclusion with this, and I'm here if you have any questions.
Anyone have any questions? I see none. Thank you, sir. That was the public hearing. I will close the public hearing. Council discussion? I see none. I'll ask for a motion on this. Anybody like to make a motion?
Move to approve ordinance number 30-2017 with the recommendation of staff to prepare a new ordinance making catering in the PID zoning a conditional use for a future date.
Do I have a second? Second. I have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Not hearing any. All those in favor say, roll call vote. Clerk, would you do a roll call vote for us, please?
Member Diesel?
Yes.
Member Nelson?
Yes.
Mayor Johnson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Behringer?
Yes.
Member Stokel?
Yes.
Passes unanimously. Next item.
Next item is ordinance number 31, 2017.
City Manager.
An ordinance of the City of
No,
Titusville,
city.
Florida, amending the Code of Ordinances and Land Development Regulations, setting forth authority and purpose and intent, amending Chapter 6 Buildings and Building Regulation, specifically amending Section 6.61 relating to site plot plans to accompany permit applications, amending Chapter 27 General Provisions, specifically amending Sections 2713 through 2716 relating to general provisions, amending Chapter 28 Zoning, specifically amending Section 2821 relating to Indian River City neighborhood zoning, deleting Section 2836 related to sale of land or buildings, amending Sections 2854 relating to allowable use table, 2875 relating to multifamily dwellings, 28101C relating to bed and breakfast inns, 28112 relating to convenience stores without gasoline sales, 28128 relating to graphic printing and copying services, 28151 relating to outdoor storage, 28167C relating to restaurants, 28236A relating to churches, 28271C4 relating to community gardens, 28342 relating to the accessory use table, 28353A relating to attached screen porches, 28357C relating to detached accessory structures, 28361 relating to outdoor areas of seating, deleting Section 28362 relating to outdoor areas of seating with entertainment, amending Section 28363B relating to outdoor display of merchandise, and 28364C relating to outdoor storage as an accessory use, amending Chapter 30 Development Standards, specifically amending Section 3335A relating to landscape yards, amending Chapter 32 Signs, specifically amending Section 3241 relating to handbills, permits, and posting, and deleting 3246 relating to commercial accessory structures and uses, amending Chapter 33 Development Options, specifically amending Section 3345B relating to amending Master Development Plan and the Regional Mixed-Use Zoning District, and 3356 relating to design review criteria in the urban village, amending Chapter 34 Procedures, specifically deleting Section 3489 Final Plat Required, amending Section 34145 Recording, and Section 34201 Recording of Final Plat, regarding plat recordation, providing for severability, repeal of conflicting ordinances, or incorporation into the code, and an effective date.
The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of this action 4-0. On 25 October 2016, Council adopted ordinance number 27, 2016, updating the structure of the city's land development regulations and making these changes effective on 24 April 2017. Subsequent to the adoption of the update, staff has identified a number of corrections and have consolidated them into the proposed ordinance. These corrections have been described in your packet, and one change has been made from the proposed ordinance since the first reading. Language has been added in Section 28-21F to clarify that any non-residential use in the IRCNC district not be listed shall be considered by conditional use permit. And Ms. Busaka is here to answer any questions that council may have regarding this glitch ordinance.
Any questions for Ms. Busaka? I see none. I don't see any up there. I'll open the public hearing. Clerk, are there any cards on this?
No, sir.
I'll close the public hearing. Council, any discussion? If not, I'll accept the motion.
Make a motion to approve ordinance number 31-2017.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Like sign. Roll call. Ordinance. Sorry.
Member Nelson?
Yes.
Mayor Johnson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Barringer?
Yes.
Member Stokel?
Yes.
Member Diesel?
Yes.
Passes unanimously. Next item is item C.
The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval 5-0 as presented by staff and the applicant with no additional developments other than a possible fire station in the RMU 100 sub-district, specifically on parcels 11A and 11B. The applicant, Jake Wise, on behalf of Sunbelt Titusville Investments, LLC, and Waterfront Co-Investment Fund 1, LLC, the owners, is requesting the approval of a master plan and development agreement for Antigua Bay property, formerly known as Sandy Point property. The applicant is proposing to develop a mixed-use planned community with 2,404 residential units on an approximately 33-plus acre of commercial uses and 100-plus acres of open space and recreational areas. The planned community will be developed in 2 phases on approximately 340-plus acres located between Indian River Lagoon and U.S. Highway 1, Columbia Boulevard, State Route 405 roadways. The property is designated in the city's comprehensive future land use as regional mixed use and conservation in a zoned regional mixed use RMU. The property is currently governed by Sandy Point Development Agreement and Master Plan. The Sandy Point Agreement expires on 24 April 2017. However, in response to several of the Governor's states of emergency declarations in 2016, the applicant has made requests for extensions of the Sandy Point Agreement pursuant to subsection 252.3631A of Florida statute, resulting in a new expiration date of 28 March 2019. If approved, the new proposed development agreement will render Sandy Point Agreement null and void. And Ms. Buzaka is here for a presentation and any questions that you may have prior to your vote.
Ms. Buzaka?
We discussed this at length at the last council meeting, but wanted to bring to your attention on page 336 of your agenda item, we have a comparison of the 10 October development agreement and the 24 October development agreement, and the changes are highlighted. Basically, they are changes in timing of park improvements. Rather than 50% of the occupants of parcel 5, the applicant has agreed to the parks will be completed prior to the date that the first 50 certificates of occupancy are issued for parcel 5, and that includes Public Park 6B, and for Public Park 6A, there's also language about posting a performance bond consistent with the city code. For the boardwalk adjacent to parcels 7 and 8, it stated that the master plan will be, that the boardwalk will be put in prior to the date of 50% of the certificates of occupancy issued for parcel 5. And if it also provides that in the event that the city is not the only agency having jurisdiction, the developer shall submit the necessary applications for the boardwalk prior to a date that 50% of occupancy are issued for parcel 5, the first certificate of occupancy for parcel 7, or the first certificate of occupancy being issued for parcel 8, whichever comes first. And then it says that the boardwalk shall be constructed within 2 years after all agencies having jurisdiction have issued the required permits. The walking trails have been stated that the trails will be 8 feet wide asphalt trails, and that there will be performance bonds provided consistent with the city code. It also states that the walking trail will be completed prior to the date that the first 50 certificates of occupancy are issued for parcel 5. That's different than the first 50%. That is for the walking trails through parcel 11A. And access will be provided from parcels 3, 4, and 12 prior to the issuance of the first certificate of occupancy being issued for each of these parcels. In addition to that, the walking trails through parcel 11B have also been clarified that there will be an 8-foot wide asphalt walking trail, and that this will be done prior to the certificate of occupancy for parcels 3, 4, 9, 12, or 13, as well as 50% of the parcel of occupancy for parcel 5. And then finally, there on the perimeter sidewalk, the language has been amended to say that to the greatest extent possible, the developer will place the sidewalk outside of the buffer.
Okay, I'm going to open the public hearing and ask council if they have any questions of staff. I see no questions. Clerk, do we have any cards on this item?
Yes, sir.
Will you call them, please?
Heather Ramos.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Heather Ramos with Gray Robinson.
Good evening. There you go.
I'm pretty loud, though. Good evening, Heather Ramos with Gray Robinson. We are thankful that we had this last 2 weeks to get all these issues worked out. We've done a lot, as you can see, and we're just here to answer any questions if you might have them.
Any questions?
And then if there's anybody else that would like to, I would like to address rebuttal if necessary, too. Yes, Mayor.
Yes, ma'am. You'll have that.
Yes, Mayor.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Jake Wise.
Any other cards?
Yes, sir. John Evans. And then Gary Allen. And that's it.
Okay, thank you. You don't need a rebuttal, I'll take it since there was no other.
Thank you.
I'll close the public hearing. Council, City Attorney.
Yes, sir. I just wanted to point out that in the last 2 weeks, you did have an opportunity individually to meet with the developer to go over the project as well as staff to answer any question you may have and explain the project to them. I just wanted to, for the record, disclose that you did have those meetings.
Does council have any discussion on this at this point? I see none. I'll close the public hearing. And what's your pleasure?
I'd like to make the motion to approve development agreement number 1-2015. Do that again. Make the motion to approve development agreement number 1-2015 and master plan for Antigua Bay.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. This does not take a roll call. Is that correct? Okay, just didn't want to mess that one up. Any further discussion? If not, well, we have the motion, so all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, like sign, passes unanimously. I want to say I appreciate all the work you put in with staff to make sure that it met everyone's expectations, so thank you very much.
Thank
you. Next item. Ordinance, Ordinance 37-2017. Mr. City Attorney.
Yes, sir. Ordinance number 37, 2017. An ordinance of the City of Titusville, Florida, amending the land development regulations relating to the urban mixed-use UMU zoning district by amending Chapter 28 zoning, specifically amending Section 2854 use table, Section 2873 live work unit, Section 2891 advertising agency, Section 2895 art, crafts, and hobby shop, Section 2896 art studio, Section 2899 bakery retail, Section 28100 barber beauty shop salon, Section 28101 bed and breakfast inns, creating Section 28101.1 bicycle sales service, amending Section 28.109 ceramic shop, Section 28111 clothing and shoe stores, Section 28112 convenience store without retail gasoline sales, Section 28115 delicatessens, Section 28117 drinking establishments, bar, tavern, lounge, Section 28-123 Fitness Center, Section 28-124 Florist, Section 28-127 Gift Shops, Section 28-133 Ice Cream Parlor, Section 28-135 Insurance Office, Section 28-136 Jewelers, Section 28-139 Legal Office, Section 28-160 Photographic Shops, Section 28-162 Printing and Copying Stores, Section 28-164 Professional Offices, Section 28-167 Restaurants, Section 28-170 Screen Printing Shops, Section 28-172 Spa, Section 28-174 Tailor Services, Section 28-177 Travel Agencies, Section 28-182 Video Game Arcades, Section 28-243 Government Facilities, Section 28-325 Urban Mixed-Use UMU, to amend allowable uses and conditions of uses within the Urban Mixed-Use UMU zoning district, amending Chapter 30 Development Standards, specifically creating Section 3283 On-Street Parking Credit, providing for severability, repeal of conflicting ordinances, effective date, and incorporation into the code.
And a reminder, this is a first reading. The Planning and Zoning Commission will consider this ordinance on their 8 November 2017 meeting. On 26 April 2016, City Council directed staff to initiate changes to the Urban Mixed-Use UMU zoning district to facilitate the city's goal of becoming a trail town and capitalize on opportunities of the coast-to-coast trail represents. The goal of these amendments is to allow for reuse of property to create a walkable, pedestrian-focused environment that is an amenity to the property owners and the residents within the UMU zoning district and the users of the trail network. At a public workshop with staff and interested citizens was held on 16 February 2017, and general consensus was non-automobile-oriented uses should be allowed on any property in the UMU zoning district, provided certain minimum criteria and conditions are met. The consensus continued at our next public meeting held with the Planning and Zoning Commission on 5 July 2017. And staff is here to answer any of your questions that you may have or any adjustments that you may want to make for this first reading.
Anyone have any questions for staff? Yes, Vice Mayor.
Yeah, under the proposed amendment, I just want to say thank you. Under the bar, tavern, and lounge, the no conditional use. So thank you for that. I think that's a good adjustment.
Any other questions? Clerk, are there any cards on this?
No, sir.
Okay, that was the first reading, so we go to the next item. Mr. City Manager?
This will be a city attorney, sir, to read the ordinances.
I'm sorry.
Yes, sir. At this time, if you like, I can read the quasi-judicial proceeding rules. During the public hearing portion of the meeting, anyone wishing to speak on a quasi-judicial item must first sign a public hearing agenda card and sign the oath contained thereon. These cards are located on the table in the back of the council chamber. Those speaking in favor of a request will be heard first. Those opposed will be heard second. Those who wish to make a public comment on the item will speak third. The applicant may make a brief rebuttal if necessary. Witnesses may be cross-examined by the applicant, counsel, staff representatives, and such other representatives as authorized by the council. If you have photographs, sketches, or documents that you desire for the City Council to consider, they must be submitted into evidence and will be retained by the City. Please submit such exhibits to the City Clerk. City Clerk, have all persons wishing to speak before the City Council signed an oath card? If there is anyone present who has not signed an oath card that wishes to speak on a quasi-judicial item, please submit a card to the clerk at this time. City Clerk, have all agenda items been properly advertised? Have any council member visited any of the sites or spoken to any members of the public regarding an item to be reviewed?
No, sir.
Thank you. The next item is small-scale amendment number 2, 2017. This includes future land use map amendment ordinance and a rezoning ordinance. At this time, I'd like to read ordinances number 33 and 34, respectively. You will vote on these items separately. Ordinance number 33, 2017, an ordinance of the City of Titusville, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinances by amending ordinance number 60, 1988, which adopted the comprehensive plan of the City of Titusville by changing the land use designation on a parcel located on the south side of Fox Lake Road, approximately half a mile west of the Interstate 95 right-of-way, with an address of 3815 Fox Lake Road, from the Conservation Future Land Use designation to the Residential 1 designation, providing for an effective date. Ordinance number 34, 2017. An ordinance of the City of Titusville, Florida, amending ordinance number 5, 1993 of the City of Titusville, Florida, by amending the zoning map made a part of said ordinance by reference, by replacing the present open space and recreation OR zoning to general use GU zoning to a parcel located on the south side of Fox Lake Road, approximately half a mile west of the Interstate 95 right-of-way, with an address of 3815 Fox Lake Road, and providing for an effective date.
The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of this action 4-0. The applicant is requesting a small-scale amendment and rezoning in order to allow for the possible construction of a building with assembly-type uses. The total property area is 272-plus acres. The amendment and rezoning pertain to a 6-plus acre portion of the overall property located immediately adjacent to Fox Lake Road. The amendment proposes to replace the existing conservation future land use designation with residential 1 future land use and replace the existing open space and recreational OR zoning district with general use GU zoning. Ms. Busaka is available to answer questions that you may have on the second reading and public hearing.
Any questions from council for Ms. Busaka? I see none. I will.
If I could,
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
sorry, but I have a brief presentation. On page 608 of your agenda package, we have a staff explanation of the history of this property. And in 2005, the property was annexed into the city, and at that time, there was conservation and OR zoning put on the property. In 2011, there was a rezoning application, and a portion, and the RE was rezoned to general use GU. At that time, I believe that the applicant believed that this open space recreation was also going to be changed. However, that was not what the actual application said, and the point of this application is that there is evidence that the wetland that was previously identified on this area does not actually exist. So what we're doing here is we are taking property which at some point there was a determination that there was a wetland, but based on the soils and all of the data that we've been provided, there is no wetland on this property. So we're changing that OR designation. The request is consistent with Objective 1.14 of the future land use element, as well as Conservation Element Objective 1.6. There are adequate public facilities, including adequate public streets, to access the property. The portion of the property that's the subject of the land use change has a Zone X floodplain designation, and the proposed land use and zoning is similar in intensity to the other land use and zoning designations in the area. The staff is recommending approval.
Thank you, Ms. Busaka. Clerk, are there cards on this item?
We have one card. It's Grady Strickland.
I'll open the public hearing. Mr. Strickland?
I'll waive my right after that explanation. There's nothing more to say.
Okay, Mr. Strickland. I'll close the public hearing. Council, any discussion on it? If not, I'll accept a motion on this item. Number 2, small-scale amendment 2, there's 2017.
Yes, sir, and I would recommend a motion as to ordinance number 33 and a vote, and then a separate motion as to ordinance 34.
Okay, and number 33, 2017 also.
I'd move to approve ordinance number 33-2017.
Okay, I have a second. Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say yes. Roll call. I will get that straight one time. Clerk, would you call the roll call vote, please?
Mayor Johnson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Behringer?
Yes.
Member Stokel?
Yes.
Member Diesel?
Yes.
Member Nelson?
Yes.
Passes unanimously. We're on ordinance number 34-2017.
And I'd move to approve ordinance number 34-2017.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Vice Mayor Behringer?
Yes.
Member Stokel?
Yes.
Member Diesel?
Yes.
Member Nelson?
Yes.
Mayor Johnson?
Yes. Passes unanimously. Ordinance, we're now on 10A. Sorry?
Yep. We still need the amendments.
I can't hear.
Sorry, I move to approve the Salcio amendment number 2-2017 for the future land use map.
Okay, I thought we did that one, didn't we? No?
Is that the independent, or are those both covered within the ordinance?
Go ahead.
I believe you've done the small scale, now you need to do the rezoning. Or do,
We actually, so far, we
Okay.
voted on the map amendment and the zoning. We voted as to both ordinances. For clarification, both ordinances comprise small-scale amendment number 2, 2017, which you just approved.
Thank you. All right, thank you.
We're okay?
Yes, sir.
Oh,
Thank you.
good. All right. 10A, ordinance first reading. Mr. City Attorney.
Ordinance number 38, 2017, an ordinance of the City of Titusville, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinances relating to fences by amending Chapter 6, Buildings and Building Regulations, specifically amending Section 656, Required Inspection, Approval Prior to Use or Occupancy, relating to permits for fences, amending Chapter 30, Development Standards, related to fences and non-residential development, specifically amending Section 30, 182, Height and Location Requirements, and Section 30, 183, Interior High-Security Fences, providing for severability, repeal of conflicting ordinances, an effective date, and incorporation into the code.
The city's current regulations relating to fences and walls is difficult to interpret and enforce. Therefore, staff has developed an ordinance that is consistent with current utilization of high-security fences. Specifically, the proposed ordinance sets forth the following. Clarifies that construction or major repair of a fence requires a building permit, provides that the city manager designee may waive permits for fence repairs in the event that it's declared a state of emergency, makes security fence requirements consistent in planned industrial development and industrial zoning districts, permits high use of high security fences where required by federal or state regulations or programs, and clarifies the placement of barbed wire on high security fences. Again, this is a first reading. Ms. Busaka is here to answer questions and adjustments to this ordinance.
Ms. Busaka? No? Any questions for Ms. Busaka? I see none. Do we have any cards on this, clerk?
No, sir.
All right, we're on to the next item then. 10B, ordinance, Mr. City Attorney.
Ordinance number 39, 2017, an ordinance of the City of Titusville, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinances by amending Chapter 21, Utilities, Article 4, Water and Sewer Rates and Charges and Billing Procedure, specifically amending Section 21-243C, Water Meter Charges, providing for severability, repeal of conflicting ordinances, an effective date, and incorporation into the code.
City Council adopted ordinance number 23, 2016 in September 2016 that removed a number of city user fees from Code of Ordinances. At the same time, fees were adopted by resolution. Unfortunately, the deposit fee for temporary water meter charges was not updated, which is the reason for this proposed ordinance. And Mr. Stauffer is here to answer any questions that you may have. And again, this is a first reading for your consideration.
Council, any questions for Mr. Stauffer? I see none. You got off easy tonight. Okay. Clerk, do we have any cards?
No, sir.
If not, okay, we'll go on to the next item, 10C, rezoning. Mr. City Manager.
This will be a city attorney reading the ordinance first, sir.
Okay.
This is
Let's
ordinance
rezone.
number 40, 2017.
Oh.
An ordinance of the City of Titusville, Florida.
Microphone.
An ordinance of the City of Titusville, Florida, amending ordinance number 5, 1993 of the City of Titusville, Florida, by amending the zoning map made a part of said ordinance by reference, by replacing the present residential estate RE zoning to planned development PD zoning to a portion of a 70-acre parcel located on the north side of Fox Lake Road, east side of Carpenter Road, and the west side of I-95, and providing for an effective date.
The applicant, Jim Swan, on behalf of the owner, First Equity Development Group, Incorporated, is requesting to rezone approximately 28-plus acres of a 70-acre property located west of Interstate 95 and east of Carpenter Road and north of Fox Lake Road. The request is to rezone from residential estate RE zoning district to a new planned development PD zoning with a master plan for purposes of constructing a new residential subdivision with 70 lots. The lots will be a minimum of 70 feet wide and 115 feet deep. The City of Titusville Comprehensive Plan future land use designation is low-density residential, which allows for minimum residential density of 5 units per acre for the development potential of 130 residential units. A PD zoning requires 35% of the 26-acre development to be dedicated to open space. The applicant is proposing to utilize 5% open space credit by including a public accessible park. The remaining 44 acres of the property are wetlands, which will be dedicated to the St. Johns River Management District with an easement. And the Planning and Zoning Commission voted to disapprove this request by 3-1, and this is your first reading.
City staff, do you have any comments or presentation?
Just briefly, in 2004, the property was annexed into the city, and in 2005, a plat was approved to construct a cluster subdivision, which allowed 70 units. That is the number that is being requested here. So there is no additional impact to roads, to water, sewer, and all of them meet the preliminary concurrency. The intent of this plan is to preserve more of the wetlands on site, which is the reason for the smaller lots. The plan has been reviewed by the staff, and the proposed rezoning is similar in intensity to the cluster subdivision standards in the RE zoning district. The adjacent wetlands will be protected, and additional open space will be provided in the uplands as part of this development. The master plan proposes a 55-foot wide landscape buffer between the subdivision and Interstate I-95, and 30-foot wide buffers between the development and Fox Lake and Carpenter Roads. The staff has found that the proposal is consistent with the requirements for plan development as it relates to residential density, the minimum size, and direct access on roads, as well as utilities, streets, pedestrian, bicycles, parks, and open space. And the staff believes that this plan is an improvement over the plan previously approved on the property because of the larger number of wetlands being preserved, and recommends approval.
Council, any questions for Mr. Saka? All right. Member Nelson?
Thank you. Ms. Pasako, do you have any idea why P&Z turned it down? What their problems were with it?
There were a number of citizens who spoke against this. They were concerned about the smaller lot size. And I have maps that can show you the difference between the proposed and the previously approved. Okay. And I think you'll be able to see that the difference in the wetlands that being preserved. But the citizens, in fact, the citizens that were concerned are currently abutting wetland areas, and they are not going to be impacted any farther. There are no proposed lots closer to them. They simply were uncomfortable with the fact that there would be smaller lots on this lot. And if you have your map and you're comfortable, otherwise I'd be happy to provide copies if that will help.
I think I have a map.
Okay.
So basically, if Mr. Swan, if we were to deny him the amendment, the ordinance, and amend the zoning, he could actually go in and build 130, put 130 houses in there, correct?
The current proposal, the current zoning would allow that, yes. But the request that was originally approved was for 70. There is a large number of wetlands on this property.
Okay, but this would preserve those wetlands.
Yes, ma'am, even more than was done under the cluster subdivision. Okay. I think it's about 5 acres.
Okay.
of additional wetlands preserved.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you, sir. And City Attorney, just for clarity on my end, in order to deny a rezoning as such, I guess the threshold would have to be something that would substantially not meet the criteria that we've set forth in order for us to make a decision. So what I'm saying is, if the applicant or the consideration for rezoning for the property, if it meets all the thresholds that were required for it, then there's really no leg to stand on unless something is terribly off. Or can you help me out with that?
Yes, sir. As we said, tonight's first reading. It is not your public hearing. That'll happen at your next meeting. I don't have the date in front of me, but it'll be next scheduled meeting will be the public hearing. Tonight's first reading. But at that hearing, your decision, because it's quasi-judicial, has to be based on competent, substantial evidence. You're sitting as judges. Competent, substantial evidence, and I can go through that, is evidence presented by persons qualified to provide evidence on the subject about which the person is testifying. In other words, if it's traffic, it could be a traffic engineer. If it was drainage, it could be someone who's qualified in drainage and has that expertise. The evidence has to be reliable, credible, sufficiently relevant and material to the ultimate determination that a reasonable mind would accept as adequate to support the conclusion reached. Substantial evidence is evidence that provides a factual basis from which a fact at issue may reasonably be inferred. So your decision, of course, has to be based on competent, substantial evidence. First and foremost, the decision to approve has to be consistent with your comprehensive plan and your rezoning criteria. And that is what the planning staff will provide you analysis of that, as well as any other qualified planners that may present evidence. If, in fact, there is competent, substantial evidence that it is consistent with the comprehensive plan and has met the rezoning criteria, the burden then would shift to the government if you want to deny it, to find a public purpose to do that. Also, according to Florida law, if you're going to deny a development order, you must be prepared to cite the provision of the comprehensive plan, law, or other code that forms a basis for your denial, and that has to be in writing.
Thank you. Helpful. Thank you.
Clerk, are there any cards on this?
Yes, sir.
Please call the card.
Jim Swans.
Hi, everyone.
Good evening, Mr. Swan.
I think the last time I was here was when we rezoned La Cita to do away with the 20-story towers.
If you'll state your name.
Jim Swan, for the record.
Thank you.
I wanted to introduce my partner, Malcolm Kirschenbaum, who is here, our attorney, Cole Oliver. If I could read this, is very brief, but I just kind of want to frame the situation in our minds. We're not asking to increase the density. This is 70 lots versus 71 lots on the last plan. We have agreed to a minimum size house of 2,000 square feet under air. Your ordinance allows for 50-foot maximum height, and we have agreed to a more traditional 35-foot maximum height. The project will be concurrent, or else we're not allowed to build it. The plan you previously approved had 10,000 square foot lots. Our proposal is for 8,050 square foot lots. Under the old plan, the lots extended to the wetlands surrounding the approved project. Our design eliminates 5 acres of wetland encroachments. And I just a moment tell you that this is some really pretty property, and these are nice wetlands. These are not been impacted. We have found that today's young professionals do not want large lots with the maintenance that goes with large lots. Compact design, as we propose, is what they're looking for. The city has done a great job of bringing jobs to the area, but the city needs more modern, high-quality, energy-efficient housing. Without such housing, professionals will migrate to surrounding communities to live. At the zoning board hearing, there was expressed concern that these homes would not be compatible with the neighborhood. The fact is that with the specified buffers surrounding the property and the acreage surrounding the buffers on 3 sides, there will be no adjoining developed property. More than 60% of the site will be preserved by conservation easement in favor of the Water Management District. Mother Nature has established the development envelope, making this a perfect place to implement your ordinance with compact cluster housing. In summary, we feel we have designed a community that fits well with your ordinance and will have only positive impacts on the surrounding property and the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Swan. Appreciate it. Any questions for Mr. Swan? I see.
Thank you, guys.
I see a number up there. Member Diesel?
Yeah, I think that simply want to comment that with the Antigua Bay move we made tonight, and then Mr. Swan brings up the growth in Titusville. I know for one, I hate to always try to speak for others, so I won't, but I agree with the need for the level of housing you are bringing in, or you are proposing.
Okay, anybody else like to address it? Did you?
No, I just, again, suggest that the evidence will be presented, and you should make your decision based on the evidence presented at the public hearing.
Yes, sir. Okay, it's first reading, so we'll move on to...
We have more cards.
Oh, you have another card? Go ahead, please.
Yes, sir. We actually have a couple more. Lori's Ward.
Yes, my name's Lois Ward, Mayor and Council. And just for the record, I am the site planner and land surveyor for the project, and I have been qualified as an expert witness before the City of Titusville and Brevard County Commission on planning and site design matters, just for the record. Only thing I have tonight is a couple exhibits that show the wetland impacts on the old plan versus the new plan. And I'll give one to Councilman Dietzel and let him pass them down to expedite.
Okay.
Right, and again, anything you present today wouldn't be evidence. It'd have to be presented again at the public hearing.
We can do that. Thank you. That's just to illustrate, shown in bright red, the wetland impacts. The only wetlands we're impacting are the ones on the interior part of the property, and they are of less quality except for the largest of the interior parcels, which is pretty nice wetlands. That's going to serve as stormwater, so it's impacted, but it's actually going to be preserved, all the wetland portion of that in its natural condition. We don't get technically legal credits for that since it's developed that way, but the vegetation is going to remain. So the true wetland impacts are even less than what the exhibit shows.
Very good. Any questions for Mr. Ward? I don't see any. Thank you, Mr. Ward. Next card, please.
The last card is Danielle Bowden.
I also have some exhibits. My name is Danielle Bowden. I am a National Association of Realtors Green designee. I'm the chair of the Space Coast Association Realtors Green Committee, and I sit the real estate chair for the Indian River Lagoon Oversight Committee. So I'm here before you to present this community for sustainable purposes. I have South Carpenter Estates Sustainable Growth for Titusville. I've laid out the market demands before you on page 2. The median employee age for high-tech jobs by Google Statistics is 30 years old. And as we know, we have a lot of high-tech jobs coming to the area. And what that means for us is 34% of those of that age, 30 years old, are looking for housing. And what they're looking for specifically is housing that meets energy efficiency and sustainability goals. New home trends, looking for the quote from where this came from. New home trends are getting larger, but their lot sizes are getting smaller. The median size of new homes increased from 1.938 1,938 square feet in 1990 to 2,300 square feet in 2016. But lot sizes during the same time period decreased from 8,250 to 6,970 square feet. That amounts to a 16% decrease.
I have here the 2017 National Association of Realtor Home Buyer data. If you look at 36 years and younger, the top two criteria is commuting cost and heating and cooling cost. So commuting cost, if we're not providing the housing for all of these high-tech jobs, they're going to sacrifice their commuting cost and look for the communities that they desire and not live here in Titusville. Heating and cooling cost, we are working with a very energy efficient builder. On the next page, I've laid out what sustainability is. I know that the city of Titusville has a sustainability board, and so I'm sure you've heard of what sustainability goals are, but it is a balance of people, planet, and profit, and all three of those have to be equal for there to be a sustainable movement or sustainable development. People. In this community, we're looking at a community that's aesthetically pleasing to the community and does meet the current buyer demands. Home costs will meet current market demands, and something that Builder Magazine has quoted as the #1 market trend is increased natural lighting. If you look at the layout of the community, each home has a view of the woods and also more lighting allowed into the home design. Planet. We are reducing wetland impacts significantly, increasing surrounding green buffer around the community, and we're decreasing impervious surfaces. The new community design has less streets, and so we're going to have less impervious surfaces.
I'm afraid your time is up, but we can give you extra time if you would like.
Please.
How long do you think?
2 minutes.
2 minutes?
2 minutes.
Council, do I have a motion?
You have a motion.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Passes unanimously.
All right, so profit. Higher tax base for the city. We're going to minimize road cost, minimize utility cost by the new community design. The next page shows the builder who will be in this community, New Vision Homes. They've been at the Great Outdoors for 17 years. They're a high-performance builder. I have included this for information, but I'm not going to read all of it with my time limits. They're a high-performance builder building very energy-efficient homes, but also some of the highest quality that Brevard County has had, and that is offered in North Brevard. They focus on their building envelope with solid concrete up against steel reinforced base. They use spray foam insulation and energy recovery systems to provide indoor air quality, higher indoor air quality. And they're currently building at the Great Outdoors, as you'll see on the next page. The Great Outdoors was developed by EKS, as well as Lasita, Windover Farms Titusville, and Windover Farms of Melbourne. So I included this to show that these developers have brought some of our best communities in the area, and this community is going to be another one of them. Jim Swan himself just was awarded the Legacy Award for his philanthropic achievements. He helped develop Brevard Zoo, supported Nature Conservancy, St. John's Water Management District, Florida Institute of Technology, Marine Resource Council, National Seashore Park Planning Commission, and he's the past chairman of North Brevard Development Commission. He's brought a lot to this community, and he's here to bring something else, and I really hope that everyone takes it into consideration for our sustainable goals for this community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other cards, clerk? Okay, this is the first reading, so we go on to old business. We have no old business tonight. We have no new business. Petitions and requests from the public present. Anybody like to speak on any subject? Ms. Psaki, you going to speak?
No, thank you.
Oh, okay.
And I don't say that often.
She was heading that way. The next item is mayor and council reports. You have my written report. Any council members want to address anything? I see nothing there. City manager's report. If I may, you got a long way to go home, so you don't want to sit and watch this, do you?
Yes, sir. Two informational items and a couple of meeting dates that you'll need to be aware of. First, the informational item is the Titusville Talking Points. Both hard copy and video are available now online. Our second order of hard copy should be available tomorrow at City Hall, should somebody want that. We've outlined the latest construction schedule for the bus shelters. As you're aware, the timeline got pushed due to the hurricane. Obviously, we weren't going to be putting up bus shelters during the hurricane, so that's the new timeline. It's about 30 days delayed from where it was before. Additionally, our debris pickup's going quite well. Our great City Public Works folks have completed their first round completely. They have begun on their second round. They began on Monday. So whatever trash day or pickup day, we're on Monday right now. We anticipate the complete circuit, 2 circuits to be done not later than early November. Our goal is the 3rd of November. So please be patient and get your final debris back out onto the street so we can pick up and bring our city back into the beautiful city that it is. 2 workshops for your consideration. Dates. The Retiree Healthcare Workshop is scheduled for 7 November at 5:30 in Council Chambers. And the earlier referenced Shoreline Restoration Workshop is scheduled for 5 December at 5:30 in Council Chambers. Subject to your questions, that completes my update to Council.
Any questions for the city manager? I see none. Next item is the city attorney.
Yes, sir. In your agenda is a memorandum that was prepared by the Assistant City Attorney Chelsea Farrell in response to council inquiries regarding the City of Titusville's policy relating to water accounts for an estate utility service requested by relatives who may reside in a decedent's property that may not have legal documentation to demonstrate their right to establish a new account. And this was requested by Member Nelson. I'd be glad to answer any questions on that and let you know, as it states, upon discovery of the death of a tenant account holder, city staff will reach out to the owner of the property in order to terminate the tenant's account. Upon discovery of the death of an owner account holder, city staff will document the date of death on the account. We'll then change the account holder to a state of the individual's name until proper documentation is provided, and the account is left active until it becomes delinquent or if the account is terminated for non-payment of consumption. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Member Nelson?
This isn't a question, but I did spend some time this afternoon talking to Ms. Farrell about the issue. And what I'm seeing is we have property in the city. The owner dies and it's not being turned over. It's just sort of sitting there. She and I discussed different ways that maybe we could handle that. And perhaps speaking to Joe Robinson might be helpful. Probate is very time-consuming and very complicated. So perhaps Joe could aid these people in finding attorneys that would be willing to help out. I don't think legal aid does it. Will handle those kind of cases. Some of the counties apparently have probate forms online. So that's an option, but that would probably take one of our chief judge or one of the judges becoming involved in it. I think that's how we got the family law forms online was Judge Johnson way back, and I'm not sure who the chief judge is anymore.
They rotate. I'm not sure who it is currently.
I don't remember. I can figure it out.
Right, we could also probably reach out to the Florida Bar. They have some pro bono services and attorneys that they'll list pro bonos to do work, free of charge. So that's another resource that we could certainly direct people to get those estates filed.
Yeah. And what was the document you mentioned?
You have the probate forms, and they are bar forms. And there, I think there's a statute, the statute requires you have an attorney there to probate an estate, because I thought, boy, somebody had a good lobbyist. Effective lobbyist.
Okay.
The probate attorneys, by the way, are charging like $250 an hour.
I mean, for some of the smaller estates, they might be able to help someone, and there might be some pro bono services through the Brevard County Bar or something. And
that's what
we
I'm
can
thinking.
certainly direct some people in that way.
Can you look into having that document available?
Sure.
Okay. Anything else?
And if Mr. Broom will do that, I'll talk to Mr. Robinson.
Okay.
Is that a deal?
Yes.
Okay.
Anyone else have anything they'd like to address? Vice Mayor?
I had specific to that. I would welcome follow up offline from council, just whatever steps are moving forward with that. I would like to hear the progress on this. And at the end of it, I get anytime it says shall or must, that's a non-negotiable unless you're trying to renegotiate the whole thing. But no water service shall be furnished free to charge to any person whatsoever. The flip side is it's somebody who's passed, so you're not furnishing it. You're furnishing it to a residence and no longer a person, where you're furnishing it to an account. Of which, what I foresee that is, mom owes $1,500. She just died last month, and Titusville is coming to say, "Give me my money." And I get that as part of a probate process, but I'm definitely open to seeing if we can, in our best chance possible, have compassion for families during that time. If there's a method to do that, I would welcome input on that. So,
Any other comments from anyone? I think we have.
I want for the good of the order. So.
Okay.
My apologies. Thank you all. And just a few so just a couple special thanks. This evening we have a couple of our school resource officers, and just as a teacher, I can't express my appreciation enough. And as a council, in understanding what that means to have a resource officer on campus, long gone are the days where you as a teacher can grab a kid by his ear and drag him to the office if you need to go. And so having that individual there who can sometimes take some of those roles that, as a 13 or 14-year-old you need in your life, that our SROs have, I think, a unique dynamic of which they help fill that for our community. So just a huge thanks to them, but not to negate some of the very serious things that they prevent in our community. And for that, I'm very thankful. Another is I wanted to give a special thanks to our county commissioner for the work that she's doing on behalf of our district and on behalf of our city. I'm struggling right now with some of the members of our county commission. I'm really struggling with it because I think that as a representative, you represent the district that you come from, which means you represent the constituency. And our districts are large, and that means when a county commissioner speaks, I believe he's speaking on behalf of the people of his district, which means it's more than one voice. And so I'm really struggling with some of the folks. But for our county commissioner, I did want to highlight the achievements that she's bringing to our community. So I want to thank her for that. Additionally, I wanted to thank staff for all of the work with the folks from Antigua Bay. That has been long coming, and I just want to personally thank Mr. Pasaka, our city attorney, Mr. Broom, city manager, and all staff engaged with that. That was a great team effort, so thank you for helping meet that. I also, for council's acknowledgement, the Space Coast League of Cities is meeting in Titusville next month, so there'll be a date for that. I'm sure Ms. Virginia will put that out, but hope to see everybody there for that. And then a last and final update. In between council meetings, I had a small informal meeting regarding juvenile crime. And in that, we had a representative from the sheriff's office, one from the school district, and then also our police chief was there, and city manager. And the reason I bring that up is because since I've been on council, one of the things that is a grave concern to me is juvenile opportunity and prosperity, of which I think that we took some steps tonight to help with that, which is awesome. I love the fact that we're funding a program to help change outcomes, and I like that. I also wanted to thank our law enforcement agency. I can't stress enough what I believe the impact of the Lock It and Lose It campaign has been. and whatever we got to do to support that. I think the number is we're down 50% on our car break-ins. I don't know how to phrase it right, but that's a huge, substantial change. And so I just want to thank law enforcement and support them. But at the end of it, that's going to take policy. And I'm sad to say that I think the Department of Juvenile Justice has not moved forward far enough in their efforts of what to do regarding juvenile crime. In fact, with policy that was adopted really in this last legislative process and kind of what came from that, the definition that would help our community, which is, for our prolific offenders. I mean, these are the ones that, guys, this ain't someone throwing a rock through your stuff. This is a rock through your window. These are some bad folk. I mean, they're kids, but they're doing really, really bad things, and they're doing it over and over and over again. The amount of impact that would have on our juveniles is so small. And when I mean small, I mean count them on your hand small for an entire county. I'm a little bit concerned about if the language is too restrictive on the intent of what it's trying to do. And so I'll share with you over the next 2 weeks, I'll be moving forward and doing a little bit more research and hope to bring back something substantive to council and kind of where are we at with that, if that would be all right. And that's all I have.
All right, thank you. I do have one thing to mention. I had a very enjoyable evening on Saturday evening. The city manager and I met with a group of cyclists. I don't remember the organization's name. Scott,
It's the East Coast Greenway.
East Coast Greenway?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I have to say they were very impressed with what we're doing. They're excited about having us involved with their group, and everything was just very pleasant. Primarily was the leadership of the East Coast Greenway, and it was an interesting evening, and I think that we're going to have a good relationship with these cyclists. So, anybody else? Oh, three. Member Stokel.
Sorry, you just reminded me of something. I had the privilege of going with our city manager to the Economic Development Commission annual meeting last week, which it was my first time to attend, and I was blown away by all the strides our county is making, and particularly how much the North End and Titusville was mentioned several times throughout their presentation of all the new developments that we're getting in our area. And for me, and on behalf of the council, I think that we should be very proud of what council has done prior, what our commissioner's doing. It was very humbling to see all of that. So I just wanted to share that with you guys.
Very good, thank you. Anyone else? Anything for the good of the order?
One more. One more.
Oh, was that you again?
That was
okay.
me.
Member Nelson.
Again. I was at the Merritt Island Wildlife Refuge Blue Sky meeting the other day, and I'm bringing it up today right now because otherwise I can't say it. So apparently FDOT has pushed back the trail through the wildlife refuge, the bike trail, to 2024. And they were discussing coming to us and asking for a resolution. We keep getting pushed back, and pushed back. And I think their thought was that they needed to make sure that the bicyclists would be safe going across the bridge. And my thought is, I'll let you, that was their take on it. Mm-hmm. And my thought is, if there is not a bike path on Merritt Island, people are going to go over that bridge and they're going to be riding their bikes on those state roads, which are much more dangerous. So if we can think of any way to sort of encourage them to do this sooner rather than later, that would be great.
I'm aware of that, and the city manager is aware of it. One of the things we probably can do is talk about it at the TPO meeting and see if there's anything that we can do there. You know, the idea is we're going to do something very similar to the Rails to Trails. There is an old railway out there that's not been used for years, and the intention of the local group was to use that as the road base. Why it got pushed back, I have no idea. Funding is always an issue, though, and I think you're perfectly right. We should pursue it in some form. Mr. City Manager, put it on your list.
No, yes, sir. And just to reiterate what Councilmember Nelson has suggested, that portion from the bridge to the beach is so important to attract people here. That's three trails coming together is one thing, but to be able to ride your bicycle or recreate, not necessarily bike, but you can also walk or do whatever your exercise demands. But that portion from the bridge to the beach being 9 to 10 miles is a game changer for the city. There's no doubt about it.
We'll have to try and come up with a plan of action here and see what we can do, because moving it back to 2024 is unacceptable. Anybody else?
Sir, to that, I would be in agreement, but I would be in agreement, and then I would also suggest, I think that would be something that Congressman Posey would be interested in as well. Because in my opinion, when we talk about access to our beach, number one, the National Refuge, I know that when we went through the experience where the refuge decided that to shorten their hours because of sequestration nationally, and then it just kind of stood there. One of the best things I think I've seen, one of the most inspiring things I think I've seen is that, boy, if enough people get excited about it, you really can make a change. And they open their hours back up. And I think that the refuge is a national refuge, and if it's a state road, and I think we should get some help from both ends, not just from the city, but also national help on that. I think would probably be welcome.
Very good.
Mayor, one more?
Yes, sir.
Similar along those lines, that's what kind of got me going there. I didn't give any report on the Parks and Recreation Board meeting that I attended. And one of the major topics and the longest length topic was the proposed indoor sports arena, for the old Titus Bowl Big Apple Shopping Center area. And the reason that kind of came to mind is that that was a big part of the discussion with the bicycle paths going out. And I would simply say that, and again, I want to keep using that word proposed, because even in our own Parks and Rec meeting, I think it got a little bit more towards this is going to happen, and we all know that's not the case right now. It's simply a proposed indoor sports arena, and we're hoping that would be a real draw for everything from high school to AAU and that sort of activity. And the Parks and Rec Board of Directors is very much behind it, and I would say that it was Commissioners Pritchett representative that presented. So it is something that is out there and can be talked about and discussed. So. Another exciting thing in the North Brevard area that's certainly being worked on. And again, my hat's off to Commissioner Pritchett and that group for moving forward with the best they can on that.
Just because this is where we can say things to each other, I have attended several meetings on that issue, and it has some legs to it. And I don't know, I can't say exactly if it's going to happen definitely or not. I'm nervous. But I can say it's looking better. And I want to also emphasize, it's not a sports stadium. It's not at Sandpoint Inn. It's not the same as the one that was mentioned before last year. Totally different project. And it's USSSA. I don't know what all those stand for exactly, but it's a sports association that brings families and their children into an area, and it can be a very big plus for our area. But there are
and in that meeting too. So I'm not saying anything that wasn't already said, and I'm sure it was mentioned at your meeting and my meeting. Delaware North has expressed an interest, who is the people who do the Space Center Tourist Center. That is a huge ad if that comes that way, and they're obviously speaking of possible hotels. So this could be really, really big. I want to keep it all in perspective right now and keep using that word proposal. But it's looking, you're right, everything I hear is the steps seem to be falling into place.
That's correct. Thank you for bringing that up. Okay, anyone else that would like to say anything at this point? Okay, if not, I declare this meeting adjourned.